प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. We are reciting from the third canto, 9th chapter, 24th verse, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. नाभिहृदादिगसतों वसि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्तिरगमा समनन्तशक्तेः रूपं विचित्रं इदमस्य विवृण्वतो मे ऋषिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः नाभिहृदात् इगसतों वसि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्तिरगमा समनन्तशक्तेः रूपं विचित्रं इदमस्य विवृण्वतो मे ऋषिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः। नाभिहृदात् इगसतों वसि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्तिरगमा समनन्तशक्तेः रूपं विचित्रमिदमस्य विवृण्वतो मे ऋषिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः। नाभिहृदादिगसतों वसि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्तिरगमा समनन्तशक्तेः रूपं विचित्रमिदमस्य विवृण्वतो मे ऋषिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः। Navihadat, from the navel like, Iha in this millennium, Sataha flying, Ambasi in the water, Yasya one whose, Pumsaha of the personality of Godhead, Vijnana of the total universe, Shakti energy, Aham I, Asam was born, Ananta unlimited. Shakti of the powerful, Rupam form, Vichitram variegated, Idam is this, Asya his, Vibrinvataha, manifesting, may unto me, ma may not, Rishta, vanish, Nigamasya of the Vedas, Giram of the sounds, Visargaha, vibration. Translated purport by Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada ki. The Lord's potencies are innumerable. As he lies down in the water of devastation, I am born as the total universal energy from the navel like which is the in which the lotus sprouts. I am now engaged in manifesting his diverse energies in the form of cosmic manifestation. I therefore pray that in the course of my material activities, I may not be deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymns. Please repeat. The Lord's potencies are innumerable. As he lies down in the water of devastation, I am born as a total universal energy from the navel lake in which the lotus sprouts. I am now engaged in manifesting his diverse energies in the form of the cosmic manifestation. I therefore pray that in the course of my material activities, I may not be deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymns. Two phrases are very important in this translation. One is, I am now engaged in manifesting his diverse energies, which means in this world, a jiva can become a receptacle to manifest, to receive, to possess, and to manifest the Lord's energies. So Brahma, by his dint of his penance, he received the Lord's energies, possessed it, and then he transmitted it. That is called empowerment, we call it. So, or the jiva may get deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymns and become hollow and not possess and transmit the Lord's energies. So that's what we call as fall down, we call it. So both these things can happen. So Brahma was a good son of the Lord. So he could transmit the energies of the Lord in varieties of ways. For example, he manifested 8.4 million species of life. He made the template for them based on the guidance of the Lord. And then all those living forms were given to that. All the living entities were given those forms. Another thing that Brahma manifested was the Vedic wisdom. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Mukhyanti Asura. So he received the Vedic knowledge, practiced it, and handed it over in Guru Parampara. That is another way he manifested the Lord's energies. Yeah, and also in the Srishti, 10 types of creations he did, Brahma. And that was one of his main project, creation. So, and Brahma is the first created living entity of the Lord, the son of the Lord, Atma Bhu. He is coming from the navel, appearing in the Lord's this thing. But even he is praying that I may not be deviated from the vibration of the Vedic hymn. So the purport is a very special purport. Every person engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord in this material world is prone to so many material activities. And if one is not strong enough to protect himself against the onslaught of material influence, he may be diverted from the spiritual energy. In the material creation, Brahma has to create all kinds of living entities, their bodies suitable to their material conditions, which means there are bodies which are Devata bodies, Gandharva bodies, and there are Kinnaras, Charanas, Vidyadharas. All these are all celestial bodies, very exalted bodies. I mean, in the material world, these are considered as Sattva, Pradhana, the higher planetary systems. Then there are bodies of humans. Then there are bodies of animals and birds and aquatics and reptiles and all that. Then there are lower forms like Uragas, Nagas, Rakshasas, Yakshas, such kinds of forms. So therefore, he's saying that Brahma has to create all kinds of living entities with bodies suitable to their mental conditions, Tamaguna, Rajaguna, Sattaguna accordingly. Brahma wants to be protected by the Lord because he has to contact many, many vicious living entities. Like some living entities attacked Brahma from behind. They're the first homosexuals. From Brahma's one of the creations. And initially Brahma laughed at their behavior, and then he got frightened. He prayed to the Supreme Lord to be protected. In the same manner, the Rakshasas were also produced who were lusting for the twilight sun. You find that. So in this way, there were many vicious living entities also produced there. So one has to be very protected by the Supreme Lord. Is the purpose. An ordinary Brahmana may fall from the Brahma Tejas or power of the Brahminical excellence. Why? Due to his association with many fallen conditioned souls. Brahma, as a supermost Brahmana, is afraid of such a fall down, and therefore he prays to the Lord for protection. This is a warning for one and all in the spiritual advancement of life. Unless one is sufficiently protected by the Lord, he may fall down from his spiritual position. Therefore, one has to pray constantly to the Lord for protection. And the blessing to carry out one's duty. Lord Chaitanya also entrusted his missionary work to his devotees and assured them of his protection against the onslaught of material influence. The path of spiritual life is stated in the Vedas to be like the edge of a sharpened razor. Shurasidara nistadurati adurgam padastad kavyo vadanti. That's what he's saying. A little inattentiveness may at once create havoc and bloodshed. But one who is a completely surrendered soul, always seeking protection from the Lord in the discharge of his entrusted duties, has no fear of falling into material contamination. It's very important purport. So some of the salient points of this purport, essential points are, Sri Prabhupada is saying here that a Brahmana can fall from his Brahminical excellence by being a little inattentive in the path of spiritual life. The spiritual life is like walking on a tightrope. We have seen acrobat, we call them, taking a stick in the hand, sometimes from one side to another side, he walks on a rope. If he is a little careless, he will slip and fall from the rope. Some people walk on great heights also between two buildings. They put a rope and they walk. So it's a very delicate balance is required for that. So in the same manner, in the path of spiritual life, Prabhupada is saying, when one practices all the spiritual principles, then gradually one's Brahma Tejas increases. And what is the Brahma Tejas? For example, his fixity in spiritual principles, like rising in the Brahma Muhurta, taking a bath, and coming in front of the Acharya, offering obeisances, to Supreme Lord, and performing all the spiritual principle austerities, like bathing the Lord, dressing the Lord, ornamenting the Lord, and offering arati, worship to him, studying the sacred scriptures, chanting the Vedic mantras, and keeping oneself very clean in thought, word, and deed, following the principles of continence. So you will find that all these things, if they are done as an offering to Krishna, then one becomes more and more purified, and more one's Brahminical excellence increases, which means by such Brahminical lifestyle, oriented towards pleasing the Supreme Lord, eventually empowers the devotee with many gifts. Some of the gifts like one becomes free from lamentation, one becomes free from hankering, one becomes free from fear of future, one becomes free from the speech and behavior of the ordinary conditioned soul. Ordinary conditioned souls talk useless things, rubbish things. Ordinary conditioned souls actually hanker for many materialistic goals like dhanam, janam, sundaram, often. And ordinary souls also commit many mistakes and they are subject to four defects. Uh, and uh, and ordinary people have ordinary goals, very petty goals. Even in Bible, there is a statement which Jesus says, "Do not strive for wealth which can be stolen by thieves, eaten by moths, arrested by wind." Like that he says. So what are the material gifts in this world which are stolen by thieves means it's like gold, silver, diamond, all that. And eaten by moths means like having a big house with, beams and made of timber, made of wood. But sometimes people are very proud of having a very royal house like that. Eaten by moths or rusted by wind, he says. So basically what he says is don't chase after material goods. Chase after the Supreme Lord. That's the point. So in this way, when the Brahminical excellence keeps one completely satisfied in the sound vibration of the Vedas. That is the real food for a person situated in Brahminical excellence. He delights in the sound vibration of the Vedic literature. He relishes it, remembers it, repeats it, and he also uplifts the suffering souls and connects them to the Supreme Lord. And such a person in Brahminical excellence becomes possessed of the Lord, like somebody is possessed by a ghost. Similarly, a person who very faithfully follows the scriptures, he is conducted by the Lord, just like Prahalad. He became like a superconductor. He became conducted. What is the meaning of becoming conducted by the Lord? You can see certain aeroplanes are piloted, autopiloted. So the pilot doesn't have to do anything, he just sits there, that's all. And the aeroplane is moved from the control room. Similarly, the pure devotee who has faithfully practiced the spiritual principles, when he becomes possessed of Brahminical excellence, at that time he becomes like an iron rod put in fire, which becomes very effulgent. And the devotee having become conducted by the Lord, then Lord will use his body to do great things in this world. Just like sometimes in my computer, there are some problems which I am unable to solve. It's repeatedly showing some problem, indicating some problem. So I used to call Pune and they would connect it. It's called as ghost connection, you know that? Ghost connection means what? You put some particular number and then they can enter into your computer and then they can do the repair work. From there they can do. And here I will see things will be moving in the computer, which I am not doing because they are operating it. That's how Lord operates in a devotee's life. Actually, Lord says, this is a password, put this password, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare. Take shelter. Then Lord says, okay, now you relax, now I operate. So then, like Krishna is guiding and Arjuna is simply acting. Karishye Vachanam Kava. So Lord empowers the devotee. Therefore it is said that prayer is the difference between our ability and God's ability. That means our ability combined with God's blessing, then one can get empowerment. One can get a very, very great empowerment. Therefore it is also said one God idea is better than 1,000 good ideas. So 1,000 good ideas means what? Many times in this world we find difficulty or challenge in preaching and making conditioned souls align with scriptures and come to the lotus feet of the Lord. And in order to bring the conditioned souls, we make 1,000 ideas. Try this, try that, this idea, that idea. We come up with multiple ideas and we try to get them, but oftentimes we find they slip out this way, they slip out that way. They don't come. But actually, if the Lord is pleased with us, then the Lord will give one God idea. I mean, that is it, empowerment actually. Therefore, we have to also pray to the Lord for empowerment besides our endeavors to achieve anything in life. So, And that pleasing the Lord involves austerity. Not a very easy thing. If you see Brahma, for example, 100 celestial years he performed tapas, and the Lord told him. And in that penance, prior to the penance, he only saw pitch darkness everywhere. But after the penance, it became lit up completely. He saw the lotus feet of the Lord, the pitambara of the Lord, the jewel, the belt, and his beautiful bluish arms, and the face of the Lord with mukut and kundal and everything, smiling face, everything he saw. He became completely, jubilant. And Lord gave him revelation of the Vaikuntha. And Lord gave him a appreciation for his penances. Lord gave him a responsible position as the Prajapati. And the Lord gave him benedictions also. And told Brahma that I am very pleased with your austerities, and now I am entrusting you a very big responsibility of doing the Prajapati and handing over the Vedic wisdom. So it is a very glorious service to do. And Lord chose Brahma for that service, pleased with his austerity and surrender. So in this way, Brahma exhibited a high level of Brahminical excellence in his conduct. And Lord understood that amongst the living entities, this personality, Brahma, will be my first son, and he will do this service. So now, when one who is situated in such a Brahminical excellence should be extremely careful, Prabhupada says. He is warning the devotee. In this world, falling down is very easy. But protecting one's position in spiritual platform, or even sattvic platform, that is not very easy. Just like, for example, climbing a staircase is not very easy. Going down is very easy. Correct, no? Similarly, Niagara waterfalls, water doesn't go up, it comes down. You will see that. Similarly, you open a banana and leave it on the table, in half an hour it will be oxidized. You will see that. In this world, the things have a tendency to go down if you are not attentive, he's saying. So, therefore, sometimes people ask a question that, okay, minimum what we have to do, tell us. Like one man was telling, that's all, you just keep the food in front of God and take it, that's all. We can go back to Godhead by that. It is not just keeping, we tell people, patram pushpam phalam toyam, but actually eventually the offering has to be done with a certain type of attitude. The spirit of sacrifice, the spirit of, not only we say, the religion begins with saying, Indraya swaha idam na mama. This is not mine, they say. But that is not the end of it, that's only beginning. But after saying idam na mama, okay, it is not mine, then who is that? You have to ask the question. Then you will say it's Krishna. Okay, then you tell that also. Krishna, it belongs to you. So, and it doesn't stop with that. After you say it belongs to Krishna, then you have to offer it to Krishna. It doesn't stop with that. After offering to Krishna, when we consume the food, we gradually get the consciousness that actually my body, my mind, my words, everything belongs to him. So ultimately it leads one to Atmanivedanam, self-surrender fully. So in this way, the surrender has to be intensified and increased to the Lord, by at which stage a devotee will feel a great dependence on the Lord. So it's called Ishvara Pranidhani, we call it. Ishvara Pranidhani means mood of self-surrender to the Lord. It is one of the limbs, which Patanjali also says that in his Yoga Sutra also. Feeling dependence on the Lord. Now the Pandavas, for example, if you see, Prabhupada says each of the Pandavas were expert in something. Like Yudhishthira Maharaj was very expert in javelin throwing, and Arjuna was expert in archery. Bhima was expert in mace fighting, and Nakula Sahadev, they were expert in sword fighting. Nakula was a strategy planner. Sahadev was able to decode the language of the animals. Like if animals will make certain sounds, he can say, is it auspicious or inauspicious? Everything he can say. So, with all this talent, they were not proud. They knew that the sanction is not in our hands. The sanction is in Lord's hands. If Lord sanctions us to become kings of the world, we will rule the world. If Lord makes us go to forest, we go to forest. And they were fully convinced in that. That's the nature of Pandavas' dependence on the Lord. They were never proud of their own capabilities. So at that same time, it doesn't mean they didn't make an endeavor or taking initiative. They would take initiative, make endeavors, but in the heart of hearts, they had full dependence on Krishna. And they sought blessings of Krishna. They sought advice of Krishna. They aligned with Krishna. They walked the path laid down by Krishna. So that is the right attitude in which the devotee should seek blessing to carry out one's duty, Prabhupada is saying. So, and then Prabhupada says, a little inattentiveness may at once create havoc and bloodshed. He says, what is the meaning of this? But one who is a completely surrendered soul, always seeking protection from the Lord, they have no fear of falling, he says. Now the problem is, we may be sometimes very surrendered when we are, we are facing the slap of the material waves of material energy. For example, if either one slipped from a pure platform to an impure platform, or if one was faced with some inevitability in life, coming in the form of some failures, material failure also. Somebody lost the job, or was fired from the job, or somebody failed in the examination, or somebody was chastised by the boss, or somebody's near and dear one passed away, or somebody faced an accident, turbulence in the plane, and somebody faced some accident or something like that, or somebody came to know that he is detected of some deadly disease in the body, which is going to get aggravated in the time to come. So in this way, when one hears this kind of some inevitability coming in one's life, at that time, feeling oneself helpless, and after having tried all the different ways and means to sort out the problem and unable to solve, then one rushes to God, just like Gajendra did or Draupadi did, like that. So at that time, one may be a surrendered soul at that time. But sometimes we find that when everything is normal, going apparently all right in this world, that is the time we tend to become inattentive. Like if you see Bharat Maharaj, for example, when he went to the forest, everything was all right. He would rise in the morning, go to the river, take a bath, come back, and then do your yajna, and chant the Vedic mantras, and do the Gayatris. And these days were going, days and months and years were passing smoothly. In fact, he was feeling ecstasy and everything was going well. So, just like this reminds me of this terrorism. Terrorists, if you see, years together, life goes quite smooth. But occasionally, these terrorists come to the city and they put some bombs in the trains. One time in Bombay, every 15 minutes they were putting bomb in trains. And nobody knew which train they are going to put. And they were keeping some people in hostage also in on Hotel Taj in Bombay. So that was a very tense period for about one month or so. And the police had a tough time identifying the terrorists and shooting them and all that, because terrorists were wearing police dress, khaki, and they had taken away the police van also. So now the police had a difficulty finding out who is actually police and who is terrorist. So you will find occasionally, it's not pretty often. Same way the religious riots also, they don't come every day. Once in a while, and then they are subdued subsequently. So such kinds of situations do come, and they are terrible situations. So they are occasional, but that is the time people talk about security, safety and everything. After that, everybody forgets it. People are careless for a few years and suddenly the inevitable situations happen like that. In the same manner, in spiritual life also, if one is eager to go back to Godhead and attain all perfection, then one cannot afford to be even a little inattentive. Prabhupada says, a little inattentiveness may at once create havoc and bloodshed. But one who is surrendered soul, he will always be protected, he is saying. So, I have made a PowerPoint, this thing, a flow chart here, if you see this. So, here if you see the association with fallen conditioned souls, which Brahmaji spoke about. Brahmaji said that he was afraid that I am creating some species. Uh, while creating them, I may associate with them and I may fall down. Like that he said. For example, we preach and bring people. The people whom we bring by preaching, some of them will bring anarthas, and they may reveal their anarthas to us. And by hearing about their anarthas, we may get polluted and we may get degraded in consciousness. So that is one of the examples of association with fallen conditions. And another thing also is in the course of preaching and making devotees, one may have to move in the city, one may have to confront the public, and especially in the early stages of devotional service, people are uninformed about the etiquettes and standards and everything. Sometimes, like one Mataji was telling, she went to a home to cultivate one lady. And the lady said, "You have come to my home, you should eat something in my home." She was very much insisting. And this lady is a second initiated lady. She won't eat anything outside. And that lady she is cultivating is a new lady. And this mother said, "No, Mataji, thank you. Just now I finished my breakfast. I just came to talk to you." Then she said, "At least you should take fruits," she said. "Okay, that is all right. I can take." So that lady cut the fruits and gave. And then when this mother was eating fruits, she came to know that in their house they cook non-veg also. They use the same knife for non-veg. That one she felt very bad. I should not have eaten fruits. After that, this mother, when she goes for preaching, she only the screen is not seeing. Okay, I'll show it. When she goes for preaching, she said that I only accept uncut fruits, not even cut fruits, because it will be cut by a non-veg knife, isn't it? So, in this way, you will see that, many times when you are going for preaching, in the name of preaching, we can get carried away by living entities. And also, there are vicious living entities like Jagamade, for example. Nityananda Prabhu had to preach. The preacher takes great risk in reaching out to such souls. There may be even damage to body. There may be damage to body or to subtle body. Also, Ajamla is going to forest to get some flowers for puja. But in the course of getting the flowers, he encounters a impure stream, which caused his fall down. He fell from the Brahminical excellence. Ajamil. He had built up, he had become a reservoir of repository of austerities and good qualities, and he had become a repository of very good Brahminical excellence. But therefore, devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness, two things they have to do. One thing is day after day, month after month, year after year, we should invest in spiritual practices and build up our reserve of Brahminical excellence, which will act as a springboard to go to the spiritual platform. Because the Prabhupada says it's a two-step process. One is the sattva guna should be increased, and that sattva should not be utilized for having a healthy body to enjoy better sense gratification. Rather, the sattva should be increased to ascend to the Vishuddha sattva platform. So otherwise, it's a colossal waste. There is no purpose of doing yoga, pranayama, eating vegetarian food and keeping oneself healthy and just, wasting human form of life. So, Ajamila is an example of one who fell from Brahminical excellence. If you see the top one, you see, he had association with fallen conditioned souls in the forest. He was inattentive and not strong spiritually. So he got diverted from spiritual energy and he fell down from Brahminical excellence. That's a warning for us. Similarly, you find Bharat Maharaj, little inattentiveness, not much, little inattentive. He called the deer as a Rajakumar and a Munikumar because Rajakumar is handsome and Munikumar is submissive. So therefore he became attracted to the deer and he was dealing with the deer. So you also become charmed by somebody who is, who is submissive and who is charming. So he started treating the deer almost like a son. So that's why actually he had given up the kingdom and wife and children, everything went to forest, but there he got deviated. So now if you see him, each of us have certain weaknesses. And if we know them in advance, then one can be careful and attentive. For example, the Kshatriya king means they have a very strong tendency for sheltering and offering protection. Hmm. You have any fear? Come here. I will take care of you and I will protect you. You have nothing to fear. I am here. So this is Kshatriya generally. But when he went to forest now, here is a tender deer seeking protection in him, seeking his shelter. Otherwise, it will become a victim of tigers and lions and things like that. So therefore, he offered shelter and protection, which was all right in the beginning. But eventually, that became the cause of his, getting carried away due to his inattentiveness in spiritual practices. So, in the same manner, in our spiritual life also, so many priorities pop up. There may be material priorities and other things in this world, different things. So, there are preachers, devotees all across the globe trying to advance in Krishna consciousness and also reach out Krishna consciousness. So, one of the most important things they should do is to see that their prayerful mood is not spoiled. The internal state of consciousness should be one of prayerful mood and dependence on the Lord, always in a humble spirit of seeking His blessings and always being fearful of Maya and always knowing well that I am in a foreign place. This is not our spiritual world. We are in a foreign place. I have to be alert and attentive. So only those people survive in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, sometimes if one is in a mood of an achiever in this world and tries to do many things at the cost of compromising one's spiritual, prayerful attitude and also performing spiritual practices diligently. If one is going to compromise on either the spiritual practices or the prayerful mode, if you compromise on that, we are likely to become inattentive at the time, because then one gets into a fruitive mentality and then one goes into a mood of proving oneself to be a great soul and feeling a sense of self-importance and getting into a mood of self-aggrandizement. Prabhupada uses these words in his purpose. And then one adopts various material means and material tools and techniques like what we find in Duryodhana, for example, and then to do something great in the world. And then in this way, over a period of time, one gets deviated from the spiritual goal. So therefore, one's own practice and awakening of a proper attitude and then reaching to the world with the empowerment offered by the Lord. That is the essence of this purport here. You see the second part below. Association with fallen conditioned souls, he says, that comes to everybody. Nobody is an exception in this world. Everybody is living in the midst of the world. But what a completely surrendered soul does, he is sufficiently fearful of Maya and never inattentive. That's one thing Prabhupada says in the purport. No one thinks that I am not prone to Maya and I am transcendental or I have surpassed Maya. Nobody can think like that. One should always be attentive and alert. And then, so therefore, what he does, he always prays the Lord for protection from material affection. And he also prays the Lord for blessings to perform his prescribed duty, Prabhupada says. So the first part of this is that protection from material affection is for our own survival. And blessings to perform prescribed duty is Karapara Upakar. One is Janma Sarthaka Kori, another one is Para-upakar. For both he prays. He always prays, protect me. Oh Lord, please don't leave me, don't kick me away. He says, Narottama dase koi, nateli varanga poi. Tumavina ke ache amara. He says, I have no other shelter. You are my only shelter. So he's begging and praying for safety and protection. And just like you might have heard this pastime of how Prabhupada said, I can never fall down. In one class, Prabhupada said, after that he was praying to the deities. One devotee asked Prabhupada, what were you praying? He said, I'm praying to Radharani that I may not fall down. But just now you said you will never fall down. Yeah. Prabhupada said, yes, because I am regularly praying, therefore I will not fall down. He said, Mahatmanas mam partha dhaivim prakriti mashita bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadimam, he says. So, praying for protection of one's own spiritual life. And when we say spiritual life, it is spiritual practices which lead to spiritual absorption and prayerful mode. So, therefore, the emphasis on spiritual practices is because those spiritual practices eventually will lead to spiritual absorption and the prayerful mood and the blissful consciousness. And that is in Brahminical excellence platform. Always one will have that Brahminical excellence. When we say Brahminical excellence, means the activities and the thought process will be in tune with the scriptures. And blessings to perform the prescribed duty, that is empowerment. When Lord is pleased with the devotee's attitude, he will empower the devotee to do wonderful things. As I told you, the devotee becomes autopiloted by the Lord. Because the Lord will inspire him with ideas and intuitively he will give ideas and creative thought process by which the devotee will be able to do something. And Lord also will make the material energy move in such a way that everything will fall in place for the devotee. In this way, this is the way the Lord miraculously acts, because ultimately he says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. The Lord can modify the things. Like Prabhupada can have a couple of heart attacks and come in a Jaladuta to the West. And you will find how Krishna guided him internally. He is guiding him also, and he is guiding the material energy in such a way that wonderful things can happen through him. So then Prabhupada says that no fear of falling into material contamination. So I really love this purport for one reason, because it warns us on one hand, and it at the same time it gives us hope also. Both things are done in one purport only. One aspect of the purport is warning. Don't be inattentive and don't be weak in spiritual life. That means when we are weak in our consciousness, we are prone to fall to Maya. For example, say somebody has low immunity. They are going to the sanatorium. Sanatorium where people have TB. If they go in that locality, certain diseases are contagious. So if somebody is already having low immunity, you go to a disease-prone area, you contract that disease very easily. Like one time, I was a little unhealthy. I was going in the train, and somebody was so much of coughing and sneezing, sitting next, and so we captured that. And when I got sick, they said that something contagious has come, and it took another 2 weeks to cure. So in this way, you will find that certain diseases are contagious. You have weak, spiritually weak constitution person coming in contagious bad association. That is the combination is very bad combination. Therefore, okay, then one may ask the question that how can I be strong spiritually? So the intelligence can be strengthened by study of scriptures and awakening discrimination. And mind can be cleansed by chanting of the holy name. There is austerity for the mind. And the senses can be cleansed by engaging in service of the Lord, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. And also mind can be purified by satisfaction. Similarly, false ego can be purified by open-mindedness to receive chastisement or feedback from the devotees, and living in the company of devotees, and not living living according to the whims and fancies of one's mind. So in this way, we can purify the mind, purify the senses, the mind, the intelligence, and false ego, everything. And the soul also gets more and more free from illusion and bewilderment when the Adhyatma Vidya is given to the soul also more. So in this way, you will find that these are the ways to get spiritually strong. Krishna Kaviraj Goswami gives the example of eating grains. In Ekadashi day, we don't take grains, so we feel a bit weak. But when we eat grains next day, again we get the strength, stamina we get. So In the same manner, study of the scriptures is compared to eating grains, he says. So that way we can become strong spiritually. And how to avoid inattentiveness. Actually, to avoid inattentiveness, one has to hear the warnings of the scriptures. It shouldn't be like a guerrilla warfare for us. Scriptures give us many warnings about the nature of the material world. For example, they tell us the nature of the mind, how the mind is very tricky, and how the Maya is very tricky, and what are the different ways in which mind tricks us and Maya tricks us. So when we study the scriptures, and one thing is we study the scriptures and know them. It's not a guerrilla warfare. You are aware of it. Plus, you also have seen people who have committed mistake and they have fallen away. And from their mistake, we should learn a lesson. We shouldn't ridicule them or we shouldn't despise them. But we should know that, such examples are there for warning us. And besides that, we also have to do self-awareness of ourselves and know our specific shortcomings. Like, for example, strong devotees can tend to become blasphemous. Very soft-natured devotees can tend to become inattentive and they may give in to, certain demands offered by devotees or by Maya. They may become lenient. Because of nature being soft, they have difficulty saying no. So they may become lenient. So, and this is, for example, something shouldn't be eaten, you eat because you can't say no or something like that. So, in this way, one has to know one's specific weakness of heart. What is my weakness, and one should be beware. For example, Rahugana is going on the palanquin, and he was going to Kapilashram to hear some Bhagavatam. But then, when he found out that one of the palanquin lifters is a Paramahamsa, you see his reflex action. Immediately he jumped down and fell at his feet. Naham Vishanki, Surarajabhadra, Natrakshidura, Nayamasya Danda. He's telling that I am not afraid of Yama's Danda, I am not afraid of Trishul of Shiva, I am not afraid of the Varunapash. And he says, Shanki Brisham Brahma Kulabhamana. He's saying, I am only afraid of the Vaishnava Parada, which may come by offending of Brahmana. Immediately his offensive behavior was dissolved. Because Jadabrata could forgive him and he didn't become a victim of blasphemy like what Daksha Prajapati had to undergo. Isn't it? Here is an example of alertness. Here is an example of attentiveness and alertness. Because people often ask, Prabhuji, we hear about Ajamil fell down and Bharat Maharaj fell down. That means you say be attentive, but who was attentive? Here is Ravgana was attentive. And we can give more examples for this. Those are attentive, like Haridas Thakur was attentive also. He told, when prostitute told him that Ramchandra Khan has sent me, he said, I already know it, he said. That means he is aware that Ramchandra Khan is envious, he is likely to trouble me, and this personality who has come is likely to be the fellow sent by him. When she said that, immediately, yes, I know very well. That means he is prepared in the mind. If one is already prepared, such things can come, then one is even more alert and, attentive, yeah. So in spiritual life, one shouldn't become inattentive, Prabhupada says. So we have to be strong spiritually also, and we have to be attentive also. Actually, when we become inattentive, for example, night you didn't get good sleep, you only slept 3-4 hours, and the next day morning you have to drive a vehicle, and you doze, and in the dozing there is an accident. So slight mistake, big price you have to pay. Similarly, in spiritual life, sometimes we don't get to read regularly, we don't get to hear lectures regularly, or we are not able to observe what we are, spiritual activities we are doing, we are not able to effectively perform them. Sometimes our performance of spiritual practices becomes a routine and hackneyed and stereotyped, and it's not very effective. It doesn't nourish the soul so much. It becomes very superficial. So at that time, because of the lack of spiritual taste, we can become inattentive also. So the taste has to be strong. One has to get a strong taste in spiritual practices. So therefore, one should find if one becomes irritated or one becomes casual, and one becomes overly familiar in spiritual life with devotees and start seeing left, right, center, giving criticisms and comments about devotees, then one can know that I am actually slipping down from my pure standards of thought, word, and deed. Then it's better for me to take out some time for my own stability in spiritual life. Let me become pure, more purer. In fact, when I went for a couple of years to Govardhanaka village, it was Bhima Prabhu asked me in Bombay, hey, Radheshyam, you are going to study 2 years. You are a very senior devotee, you are 48. Now, what is the need of you going and studying Bhagavatam? You might have read Bhagavatam 4 times already, you are saying. So I told him that, Prabhu, I want to improve the quality of my sound vibration. Because sometimes we preach, we just keep speaking and it doesn't carry any potency. So the real potency means we have to digest the purport of Srila Prabhupada, assimilate it, hear it, apply it in our lives and see the world around with that Shastra Chakshu. And then when we give the Bhagavatam, it may be more effective. So 2 years I had gone for study of Bhagavatam and CC. We did in 2 years. Every day morning we used to study 3 hours and afternoon 3 hours revision and giving test next day. It was like that. So very wonderful period it was. So taking our time out for our own self-nourishment. It is not Maya. It is some people think that we are sitting within 4 walls and you are just reading, chanting. No, we also need nourishment for us to be able to do some good to the world. We won't be able to. That's what we say. Prabhupada 45 years. We say lifetime and preparation. So Prabhupada prepared himself and then he did something very extraordinary, great. So therefore, if you don't want to be diverted from spiritual energy, we have to become strong spiritually. So preparing oneself is also very important. And another important aspect is the word of Brahminical excellence. One should know that one should, just like a chaste wife, if you see she has a kunku on the head and she has a Mangal Sutra in the neck. Similarly, devotees also, we have a tilak on the forehead and we have Kantimala. Kantimala is not just a tulasi. Some people stylishly wear it nowadays. This is actually worn for following 4 regulative principles. We follow 4 regulative principles and we are wearing Krishna's lotus feet with tulasi. So just as a chaste wife will remain chaste to the husband, similarly devotees have to remain chaste to the Guru and Krishna. And one should know that the Brahminical excellence is difficult to build up, but easy to lose. You will see that. You see, Ajamil, many years it took him to become Brahminically excellent, but then in one moment he lost. That one dirty sight he saw, he lost. So falling down is very easy. From a great height, if one slipped and fell, imagine a 100-story building, somebody slipped. Falling is very easy. In one moment he can come down, but climbing up takes time. So knowing this fact, that now material world is now surrounded by, everywhere we are surrounded by so many allurements and agents which can puncture your Brahminical excellence. And they can, just like if you have a water pot, you puncture it, gone, all the water will come out. Similarly, you'll find that all around the world now, there are so many multiple agents coming in the form of media, social media, and coming in the form of varieties of objects to, puncture the purity and Brahminical excellence of the sincerely practicing devotees. So, therefore, one should know that by the blessing of Guru, teachings of Guru and multiple Vaishnavas, and they have helped us to practice chanting and spiritual life daily to build up our purity, which is actually ultimately meant for the pleasure of Krishna only. A chaste wife, she knows I am meant for the husband, not for anyone else. Similarly, our purity, our sanctity, our wisdom, and our life, our whole existence is meant for Krishna's pleasure. So it should not be allowed to, just like butter is coming to the surface and it is snatched away by a dog, how foolish it is. So we should not allow Maya to snatch away what you are producing, preparing for years to come. One should be very attentive to preserve that Brahminical excellence and not fall down from it. So, and how do we do that? For that, Prabhupada gives solution. That be a surrendered soul, be sufficiently fearful of Maya, never be inattentive, always pray for the protection of the Lord from material attachments, and also beg His blessings for empowerment so that you can perform your duty well. Then there is no fear of falling into material contamination. That hope Prabhupada gives and that encouragement he gives also. So here Prabhupada says here, if you see, who can talk to the Lord? One who is sincerely engaged in the service of the Lord with love and faith can talk with Krishna and receive instructions by which he can speedily return home back to Godhead. Today, many scholars defend the science of religion and they have some conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But a religion without practical experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no religion at all. If one is not qualified to talk with him and take lessons from him, how can one understand the principles of religion? Like that he says. That means when we can talk to the super soul in our heart, only when we cross the Nishta stage. From the Ruchi stage onwards, Ruchi Asakti is the stage actually where Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Payati, that shloka comes into action. Otherwise, we get Matta Smriti Jnanam Apohanam cha, as Lord says. But after one comes to Raga Bhakti, then only the Lord supplies intelligence. Prabhupada says that in one Chaitanya Charitamrita purport, he says that Tesham Satati Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. When one calls the Lord's holy name with Priti Purvakam, and also continuously engaged in Krishna service in some form or other, some type of devotional service, without giving any interval for sense gratification. If one is continuously engaged in Lord service, so these are two qualifiers. Engage continuously and engage with love. Right now we don't have love, we do it as a duty to the spiritual master. When you come to the love platform, then Lord within the heart will speak to the devotee, just like Lord spoke to Madhavendra Puri. Lord speaks to the devotee. So in this way, then the religion no more is theoretical. It becomes fully realized by the devotee. Yeah, one question you can take. Okay.
When somebody is
Please go ahead.
When one is a beginner in spirituality, like they obviously don't have a lot of Brahminical excellence. So at that time, naturally, they are more attracted to material energy and they don't have that fear. So from that state, how do they develop, first of all, fear of Maya and then develop attraction towards spirituality?
Yeah. So, that is the reason why the other day when I was speaking the Bhagavatam class probably 2 days ago, a few days ago, on the three gunas. We can read the 11th canto, 25th chapter on three modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, we can read the 14th chapter. So, we have to study thoroughly the nature of three modes of material nature. And one should observe one's own life. I am in which guna? Am I in Tamaguna, Rajaguna? And what are the things I am doing in Tamaguna, Rajaguna? We should write down. And then what is the solution for that? So if you go to Nectar of Instruction, the first three verses, Vachavega, Manasavega, Padavega, and then Atyahara Prayasa, Prajalpa. And similarly, the Utsaha Nishyadaya. These 18 items are very, very important. Absolutely important. Why Rupa Goswami, who is a great Vaishnava, why is he talking all these things? Somebody may say, hey, these are all about sense control, what they need, because that's the beginning. Tasmatvam Indriyani Adav Niyamya Bharatarshava, Krishna says that. So, unless we control the mind and senses and direct them in Krishna service, we are not going to go to Radha Kund. So, therefore, for example, like, everything begins with the type of food we eat. We have to cook food and offer to Krishna with love and eat that prasadam. Similarly, we have to take bath, we have to keep the body clean, and we have to actually, it's not very difficult for you to know what are the Brahminical activities, correct? No? Study of the scriptures, and worship of the Supreme God, and also clean life, how to lead, Prabhupada books are full of that. It becomes very clear for us. So we are already having a very good training, but many times, many devotees know what is right, but they find inertia, difficulty in doing what is right. And another thing is, if we take out time to preach, between preaching and behavior, there's a dynamic tension. Why the tension exists? Because when you tell others, then you will be ashamed also that I am telling others, but I am myself struggling. Then we will at least struggle. But if we don't preach, we don't struggle also. We give up the war with Maya. We tell Maya, Maya, you can't curse me, slap me, beat me, kick me, punch me, bury me, no problem. We surrender to Maya instead of surrendering to Krishna. But when you preach, at least you know that now I am preaching, I should make an effort to follow it also. Correct? No? So we should make our effort. First of all, know what all weaknesses I have, shortcomings, which are my vulnerabilities. And after knowing the vulnerabilities, study the Shastra in relation to those vulnerabilities and try to work over them, go beyond them. One should do that. For example, these 18 items you take like sadhana chart with you. Every day write down which of these 18 items came into action. Today you became angry with some devotee, Krodha Vegam. Today some special sweet, you ended up eating a lot of it, so jiva Vegam. Today you overate, then Udara Vegam. Like that you can write. Yeah. Similarly, you worked 16 hours, 18 hours for a month and you are like a workaholic, then it's a prayas. So in this way, you keep on writing, you will find ultimately after 3 months or 6 months, most items are repetitive. That's the advantage, Everybody has specific weaknesses coming from the previous life also sometimes. They are in the subtle body. So after having known our weakness, then you can approach the devotees and ask for these weaknesses to overcome. What should I read? What should I hear? Please give me some clue. Then you get some clue. Then we can work on overcoming them. Somebody has a problem of being lazy. Somebody has a problem of, laziness is a popular one in Kali Yuga actually. And somebody has a problem of being aggressive. Somebody has a problem of becoming very materialistic, greedy. Uncontrollably they become greedy. So therefore we have to find out our shortcomings as practicing devotees and work one by one over them and slowly try to remove them. Although we may remove them, again we may fall back. So one has to be watchful, attentive. So these kind of approaches give us a clue. They give us help. And as chanting, like today is Ekadashi here. If we chant more on the Ekadashi days, then we get the determination to shirk that laziness. Shraga of the laziness. Not shirk. We should not shirk responsibility. We should shrug off. Shrug off means you throw away lethargy. So bad qualities can be given up and sublime qualities can be gradually attracted by rising from tamo guna and rajoguna to sattva. Therefore, I was telling sattva is Brahminical excellence. So, and you will feel joy also because sattva means sukham and jnana. You feel good experience in sattva, and also your wisdom also will increase, and the wisdom will keep on telling you that this is the right thing. You should keep doing it. Do more, even more, get better. Keep polishing. You get better and better, and then going to Vishuddha Sattva you will get the root for that, because Lord is pleased with you, with your attitude and behavior, everything. Then he also starts helping, as he said here. Correct, no? Thank you, Mr. Prabhupada ki.